right, I'm starting this video not actually when or how I planned, but I was beginning to work with this wonderful rule set, Grit Fantasy RPG, to show you how you can play this as a solo dungeon crawl rule set. I'll say from the outset, it is not presented that way. It is a traditional round the table GM and players rule set, not particularly limited to dungeon crawls, but there's so much great material here and a great flavor of the game that's kind of epitomized by this drawing, and we'll see a bunch of other wonderful art in this book by the designer, and I'll show you the credits here. I thank the designer for sending me this copy of the book. That as I started to do my own play and prep for the video, I kind of got too interested in what was going on to not film it. So I'm coming in here at the kind of beginning of what I'm doing with this game. As you can see, really not prepped or set up for play, to show you what I'm doing, because it's, as I said, it's too fun not to film. So in this game, I'm going to be bringing back Fidget the Gnome. Fidget the Gnome has been in a number of my videos before. This is not a sequel to any of those videos. It's just a recurring character who dies and comes back in many different rule sets. There is a gnome lineage in this game, so I, of course, had to use that. And there are quite a few cool lineages in the game that I'll show you later in the video. But anyway, I'm going to be playing as Fidget the Gnome. I already did my little character creation here. I'll show you what decisions I made in a moment. But I also decided I'm going to have a companion for Fidget. And since there is in this book a monster builder little set of rules, I thought I would build myself a monster. And that's when I started rolling up that, and I thought I should just do this on camera. So I started by doing a random stat block roll, and we don't need to worry right now what this means, but I got that number. And then I rolled my 4d20 for the narrative tags, and that's when I decided to sort of come in and start filming it here. So what I got for the narrative tags, at first I didn't like, but then I realized it's pretty cool because it's my character. It's with me. So the first narrative tag I got is opportunistic. Then I got scheming, and that's when I was like not super thrilled, but then I remembered this is my character, so operating for me opportunistically, scheming, wicked, and then finally I got sticky. And that made me think, all right, maybe my companion character is going to be kind of like a gelatinous cube type of character, or have that functionality, so it can kind of grab things for me, or I don't know. I like this little drawing here, so maybe I'll try to approximate that. So that's how far I got on the character build, or the monster builder piece here, rolling these 4d20 tags. So, and then it says roll 1 to 3d20 for features, choosing from the common and rare list as you see fit. So we're going to do that. We'll just start, I think we'll start initially with, let's do 2 common and maybe 1 rare feature, and we'll see how that goes. I got a 1 and an 18. So a 1 is going to be armored. So it has innate or worn protection. I can add 5 grit to its stat block, and it will take half damage from bladed weapons such as swords. Well, to be fair, I feel like if I'm having a gelatinous cube, it might take double damage from swords, because it would like get sliced in half. But in any case, I will add the 5 grit, and I think that's my middle stat here. So we're going to do plus 5 grit. Grit in this game is basically your health. So we'll give plus 5, and we also rolled an 18. So it will have a vicious bite. It will have a melee attack using powerful jaws and razor-sharp teeth. Shield still offers soak, but armor offers no protection from this attack. So it's going to basically be a melee type of character, in addition to what I've decided that it's just going to kind of absorb things, my little sticky friend. All right, and we're going to do a roll for a rare feature, which is 12. And for 12, we get a Necrotic Ray, a short-range attack that deals d6 unsoakable damage. Target's grit max is reduced by half of the damage dealt, rounded up. Ooh, that's pretty good. Okay, so we're gonna make a note of that, and I haven't really prepped anything yet. Let's get to some basics here on the character sheet so you can see what's going on. And this is a rules light game. It is designed for, as mentioned, more than one player, but I think it is extremely soloable, and I hope to show you a little demo of how to do that here. It is self-described as kind of basically for one-shots, and I think that often rule sets, that was very nice. Often rule sets that are so designed can be very helpful for soloists because if they have a lot of random tables, as this one does. And we will look here first at what we've got. So the basic way this game works is it is a D12 based game where you have some statistics here for your character. They are might, prowess, valor, insight, and command. And you effectively have a +2 that you can distribute among these, and then a -2 among these. And I chose to use the suggested breakdown for the gnome, what is it called? It's the lineage. So there are lineages here that are, I think there is no setting for the game, but the setting, such as it is, I think it comes from the suggested the art style and the type of lineages here. It's almost like a lighter fantasy fairy tale-ish kind of world where you could be a bullock, a frog-like character, or you have some standard things like a dwarf and an elf. You could also play a froom, so like a spore plume type of character, and I think that's really cute. And you've got a giant here. I was almost going to play a giant. I love giants, but I had to go with the gnome character just to resurrect my fidget. I was thinking of playing a giant and a gnome, but then I got the idea of just having a fidget play with a kind of essentially like a random monster who's going to be Fidget's companion. You've got a hoblin here. We've got human, of course. Never play humans in games. I'm not sure why you would. A quickling, compact, swift, keen, and nimble. These are just suggested kind of flavor text. They don't have particular meaning in the game. Of course, you could assign meaning if you wanted to. You could play basically like a stone character, or you could play this stoutling or a wildern that has the clever, vigilant, intuitive, and hardy. So those are the 12 lineages. You could choose something randomly, obviously, if you wanted to. And they each come with, as part of a quick build, you can use these suggested stats, and I just did that for my gnome character. So basically, the way the rules work, there's a couple of different types of roles that you can do, and they boil down to either what's called a static roll. So you are going to have a predetermined difficulty level, and the GM is going to determine that. You can determine that yourself, either randomly using like a D4, or you could just decide based on the situation what it would be. And then you're going to be rolling your D12, and you're going to be using your aspect value, and you will need to beat the target number. Now, it's important that it's not meet or beat, it is beat. So for something that is going to be an average, you need to get a 7 or more on your roll. So for example, if I was attempting something that was going to be using my prowess, for example, sorry about the and my prowess was going to be, well, that's going to be obviously a failure, that regardless. But if it was an average task and I was using my prowess and my prowess was a 2, I would need to get to a 7 when I added whatever my D12 roll was, plus my 2. So that would actually succeed if I had a 2, but it can't be a 6. So that is one type of roll, and this is when it's not like challenged by a rival. When something is an opposed roll, you make that when it's challenged by some type of an opponent. So you're going to roll at the same time, you're going to compare the results, and the higher one succeeds. That's sort of the basics of the rule set. The enemies themselves, they don't have this type of breakdown. They have just basically one stat that's called the universal aspect. So that kind of simplifies things. So a monster will have a universal aspect in the first column here. This is their grit or their health points here, and this is the number of turns that they get in a round. And that is the essence of the rule set here. So you can carry up to 10 items, and you've got the character sheet with the aspects and your 10 slots. I decided, so this is my Fidget the Gnome, and as I said, I took the suggested stats here. So my might is -2, my prowess, that would be like with a ranged weapon, is +1, valor is 0, insight +2, command +1. And I followed the suggestions in the GM portion of this book for an easier build. So I gave myself, and I think I did actually a little bit extra, as I often do when playing solo. If I'm just running like a character rather than a party of characters, I want to make sure that I'm not going to be just sort of one and done. So there's instructions here for easy mode play, which is to start your PC with a potion, a healing potion. You get a random consumable, an extra gear item, or artifact. I think I gave myself both. I'll talk about the focus die in a moment. And yeah, so the focus die is a very significant part of this game. So you have 3 focus die that you start with, or that everybody has. It's a D4, a D6, and a D8. And basically what these are, you can be using them once per session, although here it's giving you a little bit of a flexibility here. You can re-roll if you get a 1. You can maybe recover 1 between scenes. You get to make a decision after you make a roll. So you don't have to commit before. After you make a roll, if you don't like your roll or you want to try again to succeed in your roll, and maybe a desperate situation, to expend a focus die. And you get to choose whichever one you want and roll it and add that stat here. Each player begins with 3 of them, the 4, 6, and 8 that I showed you, used once per session to boost an aspect roll or to activate abilities and items, 1 per turn, and you only do that after the roll has been made. So that's kind of helpful. You don't have to necessarily waste 1, and it gives an example of using it. And here it says they're only able to be recovered at the end, at the start of a multi-session game. But per the easy rules, you could recover 1 between scenes. So I don't really know how tough this game is going to end up being just with my 1 character, but at least at the outset, I am going to utilize that. So for example, again, what is a scene? Well, you're playing solo, so that's kind of up to you to decide. If in this case, I'm focusing on doing a dungeon crawl, would a scene be a room and a combat, and I could recover 1 per combat? That almost seems a little bit too easy. So I'm going to have to figure that out as I play the game. But the bottom line is, you make a roll. I seem to be rolling 2s on this. You fail. I can decide it's really important that, or it's pretty important that I try to add something to this. So I could make another roll with my focus die, expend it, and add that value. All right, so with all that, let's take a look at what I gave my character, what I got my character. I did this doing some random rolls here. I got some luck runes that I can sacrifice one, roll a d4, and add that result to any roll. So that lets me kind of preserve my focus die. I have some ice shattered darts, and this is going to target someone and freeze them for a round and then do d6 damage. I've got a bow and quiver as my weapon. The weapons themselves, the damage that they do is calculated by the difference of your roll and the other person's roll. So it's not inherent damage. It's just like how successful the attack is. I have a spear as well that can be melee or thrown. I don't really have much by way of melee because my might is a -2. So if I decide to throw my spear, maybe I just throw it and then, I don't know, I can use my bow. Now, the thing is, it's slightly counterintuitive because I am playing I'm going to constrain myself to a sort of dungeon crawl situation inside because I think the rule set lends itself to that for solo play. But we might just have to use a little bit of further imaginative concepts here to think that I could be, using a bow and arrow inside a dungeon. But in any case, I've got a tinkering kit, of course, because I'm a gnome. I also have a rogue's cloak, and that's going to make my stealth rolls easy, meaning I need to, the easy target number is 3, so I need to roll a 4 or more total on my, using my prowess, which is a +1, and everything will be easy if I'm trying to maybe sneak by something. I have a potion, some type of potion. I cannot read my handwriting. That is going to, it's going to let me heal D6 grit. And I have a shrink potion that will let me become the size of a mouse. And I have this holy hat. I can press it against the surface. It's going to become a hole in the wall that I can go through. Where did this stuff come from? Well, it came from the back of the book. And the back of the book, starting on page 108 and continuing along, are amazing random tables. And they are amazing for 2 reasons. One, just the content and the variety of them. But 2, because the author of the book, even though this is not designed for solo play, has really set you up nicely with a kind of meta random table to decide what you want to roll on. So, for example, this is a list of all the 20 random tables, just completely randomized if you want to get to one, and also broken down. There's 4 types of gear tables, there's 12 types of artifacts, and 4 types of consumables. So it allows you as the soloist to not have to make these things for yourself. If you've watched my channel, you've seen me go through books and try to categorize things and make my own tables, and sometimes lament the fact that it'd be really easy for a designer just to put that in there right away. That's what was done here. Again, not specifically for the soloist, but it's super helpful. So this to me, is just calling out for a game where you're just essentially going somewhere, encountering a monster, getting their loot, moving on, figuring out how you're going to use that loot, and trying to get to the end of it. And so this is one example of the great random tables of just kind of stuff. And we'll just do like one little roll here to show you some of the things. So if you want to minimize your rolling, you can roll, in this case, 2d20s at once. We'll say the flat one is we'll say this one is this, and then the other is what it is. So we got a 19 and a 4. So that's going to be tools and equipment. And we could just go to the tools and equipment section. And then we got the tool or equipment number 4. And that would be a, let's see, dig, dug, shovel. That is showing you that it is used with the might aspect. You can take a full turn to dig a hole, trench, or tunnel through dirt or sand up to a long depth length. Its height and width will be equal to your size. So you could stand there with that thing trying to dig. Now, again, how would that work in the game? Well, you or a random roll of a d4 would need to determine what the difficulty level of doing that is. So if we did it randomly, well, unfortunately, that's going to be absurdly hard. That's going to be a 12. Now, in my case, my might is a -2. I don't really, it's impossible to roll a T. It would be basically just impossible for me to do that with my character, unless I had something that temporarily increased my might or whatever, or unless I chose to use a one of my, what are they called? Focus die. So in this particular case, if I wanted to risk it, I would roll my D12 and I got an 11. That's actually pretty good. So I got an 11. Remember, I have to get a 13 or more total, and I'm really desperately digging. So I decide I still have my D8 focus die. I haven't used it. I'm going to maximize my chance of success here, and I roll it, and I get a 5. So I use this thing that I have, this dig dug shovel, and I dig my way out of trouble. That's an example of how you would do the rolling and how you would use that item. Now, the last thing I want to show you before we get to figuring out two more things I want to show you. There are 40 monsters here. Well, more than 40 monsters here, really. There's common monsters like the rat, the crab, spider, snake, etc. And then there's 20 monsters, and this is what I'm going to be focusing on, that are unique monsters found only in Grit. Again, we get a nice random table here, some cute monsters saying hello, and we can see just from the list that these are not common monsters. And this is something that I am going to focus on because, as mentioned already, there isn't a specific setting here. So in essence, the setting for me at least is literally drawn by the drawings and just kind of the feeling of it. So I want to use these monsters. Now, this one, for example, to show you, the universal aspect here is -1. So whatever roll this little guy makes, he's going to be subtracting 1 from that. He's got 5 grit and he can do 1 turn around. He's bulbous, strange, comical, explosive. Again, these are keywords not defined anywhere in the rule set. You could choose prior to encountering something like this, if you wanted to work that way, to figure out maybe what one of these things or all of these things mean. Maybe you could assign them, if you wanted to do this, specific types of attacks, and then also roll for that. You've got your little description here of how he uses his weapons, some things that he may do. So he could instantly bloat to 3 times his size and float around. He's immune to damage from crushing and falling while in this state. This is explosive here. If he's attacked with a ranged weapon while in that bloated state, he's going to explode. You're going to get damage. And then a little description of what he is. So these are the monsters with, again, the convenient table for them. And then there are also just kind of regular monsters like a ghoul, for example. Finally, in the GM portion of the game, there are also random tables for the GM, and there's a story builder table here. So we could roll on this, and maybe we will do this. As I said, I've kind of predetermined that I just want to be like going around in a dungeon, but I think we'll give this a roll here to see what how we can maybe outfit this dungeon or figure out a way to structure our little story here. So let's start with the plot. We got a 4. Rescue. I love rescue missions. All right. We got some sort of rescue mission. Let's do terrain. We got a 3. Tundra. Not so sure about that because I don't think I want to go outside, but let's continue on. We've got 2d20 really for the location, an 8 and a 5. We have a settlement and ruins. So, all right, well, ruins in a tundra, rescuing someone, that's going to fit with my dungeon situation. And then we have some bunch of stuff for details and events. So let me, before I get to that, let me sort of organize all of this and come back. All right, so I had planned all along to do this as a dungeon crawl, as I said, but sometimes when you're working with material, you have to change course. So I did roll up, so here we've got my fidget guy, my little sort of gelatinous cube friend here, and most importantly, now we rolled up this sort of rescue mission, tundra, ruins and settlement. So maybe there's a ruins of a settlement, but the tundra thing kind of threw me because that's definitely not a dungeon. And the ruins, it's sort of suggesting outside. So I thought what I would do is see whether I'm going to go to my own book here and roll on the sort of random literary table that I have here to see, this is a D66 table, whether I can get some type of framework or structure that is going to help me here, because again, there's no specific setting in grit. So we're going to be rolling these D66 and reading black and red. Whoops, reading black and red for, we got a 62. Let's just see if that is going to be helpful in any way. Here we are. All right, I think we can work with this. This is from Ivanhoe, and I'll just read you part of it. You can sort of pause the camera here if you pause the video if you want to read the whole thing. So we're not in a tundra here. It's described that we're under there are hundreds of broad-headed, short-stemmed, white-branched oaks, and they flung their gnarled arms over a thick carpet of the most delicious greensward. But we're going to just kind of move down to this portion of the excerpt here. Again, they're designed to be flexible and let you pick and choose to see this. A considerable open space in the midst of this glade seemed formerly to have been dedicated to the rites of druidical superstition, for on the summit of a hillock, so regular as to seem artificial, there still remained part of a circle of rough, unhewn stones of large dimensions. 7 stood upright, the rest had been dislodged from their places. One large stone only had found its way to the bottom, and in stopping the course of a small brook, which glided smoothly around the foot of the eminence, gave by its opposition a feeble voice of murmur to the placid and elsewhere silent streamlet. So what we've got here we're out to kind of go back to what we have here. We are sort of in the middle of this tundra area. We see ruins of it says settlement, but here it looks like there were there were 7, there was like a druidic circle basically, and this is maybe the ruins of it. There are 7 that are still standing upright, but the rest have been dislodged or maybe are in ruins, and there is kind of one lying that's stopping a brook from going, and that this is where we are. Maybe we are outside of an area of a settlement, and we're going to be starting by examining these ruins, perhaps, but we know that ultimately we are on a rescue mission. So I want to go back to Grit and show you more of what it is going to offer you here. We will see there's some D12 events, and I'm not sure I'm going to roll for 3 events, but let's roll for at least 1 event, and we got a 10. So there were recent abductions. Okay, well, we are trying to rescue somebody, so maybe these druids here are part of our friendly group. The druids and the gnomes are friends together. We've been asked to help find one of these abducted druids, and we can go to, there is an NPC builder here. So let's find out about who we are actually being asked to rescue. We know that they're a druid just from the story that we just built, and they are a quickling. So let's remind ourselves what a quickling is. The quicklings, they're compact, swift, keen, and nimble, and they're small and thin. They have toned muscles, large eyes, large, long, tapered ears that give them keen hearing, and they have a beautiful greenish blue skin that shimmers in the sun and moonlight. So maybe the druids are like quicklings, and one of their little scouts or one of their little lookouts was abducted from this area, and we've come upon the sort of after effect of that with the ruins here. And we could go more into detail about who they are. Let's at least give them a name. So we've got a D12 roll for name for Shorty. Thistle. I think Thistle is good. So Thistle, the druidic quickling, was abducted, and we are going to be tasked with finding Thistle, the druidic quickling. And we're starting out by being in this area of the where Thistle was abducted from. All right, so obviously the first thing we're going to do is look around, and that's going to be a prowess roll. I think it's just going to be sort of average difficulty. There's really nothing to suggest right now that anything is difficult, meaning we need to roll a total of a 7 or more. Our prowess is, excuse me, it's not prowess, it's insight. Our insight is a +2. Ugh, we rolled a 1 +2, that's 3. We need a 7 or more. I think we're going to have to burn a die. This is crazy. We're going to have to burn our one of our whatever they're called. I can't remember dice. We need to get it to a 7, and we're only at a 3. So, all right, we did it, but we burned this. I haven't yet decided how I'm going to replenish this in the game, but we had to. Maybe I could have used the D6, but in any case, we're looking around, and our reward for looking around is we're going to get to roll on the details here, and this is going to be 4d20 details of the area. We don't know, we have no idea where our little friend, what's his name? Thistle, the druidic quickling, has been abducted to. Maybe this will give us some clues. So we got a 3, a 5, an 8, and an 11. And let's check out the details as we look around. Hopefully it'll be good because we burned that die. So we see, hovering lanterns. Maybe the hovering lanterns are held by some invisible enemy. I don't know. We're going to check on that. An ancient obelisk. Well, we do know that there's already some kind of druidic statue things here. So maybe we're just getting a little more detail on that. There's cold whispers. Yes, I think those hovering lanterns are being held by somebody. And there are starlit sigils. Interesting. I don't know if those are in the sky, or we didn't really ascertain whether it's day or night, but it's a little bit spooky. All of a sudden, this is taking a turn. It's taking a little bit of a turn here. But I'm going to go to what's called here the Mighty D4, really a very basic oracle in these rules that's quite useful, again, for soloists, even though the game is not specifically designed as such. And we will roll it to ask just the simple yes or no. Are those hovering lanterns being held by somebody? Now, why can't I find this? All right. Well, here it is. I had it flagged, and yet somehow I could not find it. So we're going to roll on this handy D4 table, and it's not only here for yes or no, but there's some suggestions of other ways you could use the D4 to answer some questions about things, and maybe we'll get to that. But for the moment, we're going to ask, are these hovering lanterns, are they held by somebody, some sort of enemies? And yes, they are. Of course they are. They're not just hovering there. All right, they are held by somebody, and I think we're going to see who that is. I'm going to go to the grit monsters here and roll on somebody is holding these 16. They are held by a thrunk roots. Let's see what that is. We don't necessarily know. Oh, creepy, deadly, and plant-like. Creeping roots makes long-range grappling attacks. Hard insight roll to detect before the attack. Opposed might roll to break free. All right, so we've got some of these thrunk roots around us holding these lanterns. I don't know how many there are. I guess we could roll a d4 and see. I don't want to like die right away. Of course, there's 4 of them. I mean, naturally, right? So there's 4 thrunk roots. That's pretty rough. They've got 20 health. We can't really necessarily fight them. Anyway, here we are. There are. We need to. We need to see. Can we detect them before they attack us? It's a hard insight roll. So the hard is going to be, that's going to be 9. Now our insight is +2. So, and I already burned my D8. That's really unfortunate. All right. All right. We're looking around. Fidget sees these like things around coming up out of the ground, out of the tundra, and let us see if we can detect them before they get to us, before they start to attack us, because if that is the case, we're going to run. So what we need to do is, it's an insight roll. We said it was hard, and that is a 9. So we're going to take our d12 and give this a roll. We got to get a 10 or more. And oh man, we got a 3, and now we can't do it because even if we rolled, oh no, we got a 2 actually, right? Our insight is 2, so that's a 5. We have to roll a 5 or a 6 here to not be entangled. I mean, that's basically the bottom line. Okay. All right, we did it. We burned this, but we did this because we got the 3 plus the 2 is 5 plus 5 is 10. It was hard. We did that. If had we not done that, by the way, I still got my little guy here. He was going to try to help us out, but guess what? We see them coming, and we don't have to make any might roll to break free, which would be tough because we are at a -2 might, but we are going to run, and we are going, or run, hide, something. We have this rogue's cloak that is, we have the stealth rolls are going to be easy. We use the prowess. We only have a 1 on that, but it's going to make that roll easy. So bottom line is, Fidget is going to sort of throw on this rogue's cloak, throw it over our little friend here. We didn't name him. We should have given him a name. And we're going to see if we can just get out of this situation to somewhere else. And we have an easy time of that because of this roll, because of that item. So we'll give this a roll, and we got a 5. That was easy. We didn't even need to use our prowess. So we see these thrunk roots that have dropped those lanterns coming for us, and we're going to get the heck out of there. We're not even going to use this D4 table anymore to learn more about those details. We're just moving on and getting out of the way. All right. Well, that was exhausting and exciting. And now we're running off. And as well, my video is getting sort of to the length that I wanted it to be. So with that, I'm going to stop with the action to come back to this book and just talk about a few more things before I wrap it up. We didn't actually have combat because we ran away from combat, but I want to show you just something basic about the combat. As mentioned, the monsters themselves just have the 1 stat. So had we been fighting this thrunk root, it would have just added a +2 to its rolls. And it also says here their special abilities. So in this case, we don't damage the creature. If it's destroyed, more come into their place. So that's kind of, I'm not sure how you would actually fight that. You might just ultimately have to try to escape from it. So maybe that all worked out as it should have with that particular monster. But in this one, if we had encountered this splog, we have a ranged weapon, so we would be only dealing half damage to it. So everything is like a little bit different. And that's just a look inside this wonderful rule set that can be, I think, really appropriated for the soloist because of the way it's structured with the random tables, the GM guide, random material, the randomization of the the loot, the artifacts. What I really wanted to do, but didn't get to it on camera, but am going to do off camera as I play, is just it's uh, there's so much cool stuff to get. And I just want to end the video by looking at a little bit of the cool stuff, because I think having the stuff and using the stuff and trying to make your way through just combats using the stuff is really the core of what could be fun here. So for example, you could pick up an impish pastry. It turns into a tiny flying imp for D4 rounds. So you get like a little benefit there, a little monster that you could have, or a pixie biscuit. You could get a slick shroom. You could throw it, and somebody is going to have to do a hard prowess roll, or fall prone from getting hit in the head by a mushroom, a flying mushroom. I mean, it has that fun feel to it, and the kind of chaotic fun that I think lends itself to a lot of just imaginative stuff happening. I would imagine that playing this around the table with people is also a lot of fun, but it is all here for you if you want to make use of it as in the way that I demonstrated. And then, of course, there's some kind of regular stuff like an agility potion. Here's one, a pixie juice lets you fly, and you make sparkles when you fly. So that's pretty cool too. So that is a look inside Grit. It is very easy it's a single volume and has just a ton of random tables and stuff. It has a lighthearted feel. I think that playing with even two characters would be super easy, because the character builds are not very complicated. The rules light nature of it lends itself to solo play, and it's kind of explicitly for one-shots, and I think that also works really well for soloists.